T-minus 1 minute. T-minus 50 seconds. T-minus 40 seconds. T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Own it, own it, own it, Kong. I own it. It did.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
Hey, 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 y'all. It's Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the NXT Aftershow that we have every Thursday, where we give you the rundown on what's going on the black and gold and white brand as it stands now, because, of course, they've been going through changes. So it's not multicolored anymore, but it's black and gold and white in the middle. So per usual, I'm your girl Stephanie Hardy, host and creator of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast and host of Women's Wrestling Talk and color commentator. So I am so happy to be here, and thankfully I am not alone. I am here with the fabulous, the beautiful, the visionary, the super mom, Katrina Blake, host of In Cat We Trust, writer, and just all around amazing person who also showed me around New York this past weekend. And it just feels really funny this week watching her through a screen because I just saw her in person. Katrina, how are you?
Oh, it's such awesome interest. I'm okay. I'm okay. Yeah, I know. It does feel weird that we literally was with each other for like 2 days.
It was hilarious. It's really hilarious watching you through a screen, and then it's just like we were just together and now we're apart again.
I know.
But that's life. Now, now, of course, if you're in the comments and you did watch NXT this past Tuesday, please let us know how you felt about the show, and how you feel about everything that's going on in general. Because NXT is, of course, leading up to their next special, which it will be Halloween Havoc, their premium live event, which will be Halloween Havoc. 1 week from Saturday, we have one more NXT before we have Halloween Havoc. And we have a lot of stuff to look forward to, like with the ladder match for the NXT North American title. The NXT Championship landscape is, of course, changing with Braun Breaker, JD McDonough, and Ilya Dragunov. And, of course, you have the Women's Championship, which is still sort of in flux, seeing as Mandy Rose is out, dealing with something very personal. And we do wish her the best with that. There's just a lot to look forward to with Halloween Havoc coming up. So, Katrina, how did you feel about this episode of NXT?
I was okay. I'm. Oh, sorry. I don't know. My phone is doing that. Um, I feel like it should be more, I guess, going into Halloween Havoc, since that's technically like a little bit more than a week away. So it was okay. But I'm hoping like next week we can really get into like the nitty gritty, considering they have their Halloween pay per view coming up. I can't.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get more into the nitty gritty of it all They're just in the process of building things up, and like we say, like I said, we have one more week, so they have, but then they also have the rest of this week to help build stuff up too for NXT as well, because since there's been a change in power, they have all three of the shows have been connected and more connected than they ever have been before. And it's really good for morale and for the change of it, and also for exposure for a lot of the NXT stars that a lot of casual fans aren't necessarily used to. But we'll get into that a little bit more later. So of course NXT started this Tuesday night with the introduction of Booker T, who is new to NXT commentary, alongside Vic Joseph, who has been a staple in NXT for the past couple of years. So we do still get to hear his voice, and he wasn't on last week's episode, of course, because he was off getting married to Mackenzie Mitchell, who does backstage interviews. And if you've seen those pictures on Instagram, they had a really gorgeous time getting married in Italy. So congratulations to them. Such a beautiful couple, and we wish them nothing but the best. But Vic Joseph and Mackenzie Mitchell are back now. And like I said, Booker T is on commentary. And of course, he's a WWE two-time WWE Hall of Famer, as his own star and with Harlem Heat. And of course, we do see him on pre-shows all the time as well. So he's relaying his knowledge to it. So Katrina, how do you feel about Booker T and his performance on commentary?
It was good. I would like. I felt like I don't know if I said it on here or a different platform, but I would like to see more women in the commentary team. It's unfortunate that with all the changes, there wasn't a woman added to commentary, and so hopefully that'll change. But otherwise, he does have a lot of years in the business, and so he should be able to. I thought he would be able to add to like to the commentary, and it's not like a step down or anything. So I think for what we got, it was good. He's done commentary previously, and so it's not like it's like he just kind of thrown in there. But it would be nice to get so many commentators. If it's not going to be on SmackDown and Raw, then they definitely could have put it on NXT. But we'll see who goes on with that.
I absolutely agree with that, because in the end it's 2022, and it's like I mentioned at our panel at New York Comic Con, which is available on Katrina's YouTube channel. Please check that out. It was a great time to be had, and I was happy to be a part of it. I did address the lack of women on commentary in terms of WWE's commentary shuffle that they did do last week. And with it being 2022, and with the women making so many strides in equality in WWE and beyond, in other avenues of wrestling, women deserve to have their thoughts on commentary as well, because we are thought leaders when it comes to wrestling. We know just as many facts as the next man would. And we do more than just mediate conversations between the men about wrestling. So there should be more women on commentary, and we're going to keep pushing for that level of equality, as much as we possibly can here on Women's Wrestling Talk. But when it comes to Booker T, you can't really deny his knowledge, and it's really interesting because he does run his own wrestling school in the form of Reality of Wrestling. So I'm wondering, if he is taking on a little bit more of a role, with the newer stars at the Performance Center, if he does have time. I think that would be really cool for somebody like him who does have his own school in Texas. But we'll just have to see where that goes. So in the meantime, the show started with JD McDonough whispering into the ears of Javier Bernal, Big Body Javi, before the match that he had with the NXT champion Braun Breaker. So there really wasn't a plan, that really worked or went forward in this match. In terms of, nobody really knows what JD said to him. So Javier went to the ring and basically tried to give Braun Breaker his best, I guess you could say, as for someone that's still relatively new to the NXT proper brand. But Braun Breaker was his regular dominant self and strong self. He was hitting him with all of his best moves, his best intensity stuff, hitting him with strikes and clotheslines and such. And even though Javier, did try to hit him with a few kicks and stuff that was in his arsenal, he wound up losing the match to Braun Breaker after Braun hit him with a military press power slam. So Braun Breaker was victorious in this. There really wasn't much to be done with that, but at the same time, you still have JD McDonough just still trying to get into Braun Breaker's head ahead of Halloween Havoc. So that was pretty much it. And then also you have Ilya Dragunov, who made an appearance after the match as well. And he gave him a headbutt, which of course stunned Braun Breaker because I mean, Jesus Christ, Ilya Dragunov's headbutts are like the stuff of like legend when it comes to British strong style. So that was really interesting. So that's pretty much how that segment ended. So Katrina, how did you feel about that match and that encounter that Ilya had with JD? Well, not JD, but when Ilya had with
Hey, there, JD.
yeah,
I thought it
with
was good.
Braun.
It was solid. It was a solid open. Um, I was a little surprised that I guess Ignov kind of went off in that route as far as kind of popping up, and I get why. I guess because they have that match coming up, but I was a little surprised because it seemed more heelish to do that. To me. And that was kind of under the impression he might have been a face, but maybe he's kind of tweening right now. I don't know. But it was solid. It was a solid open. I thought it was a decent match, and I I expected Braun to win that. I would have been very surprised otherwise. But I at least with this, you can kind of tell tension is kind of boiling over with the three of them leading up into Halloween Havoc, and so I feel like the match we will get at this pay per view is going to be like it's going to be really good. I feel like because you have three very different like approaches to how wrestling kind of happens as far as their styles are, and then they all seem like one who never lost the title, one who is the unified title, and then he's just kind of there. The other guy, because I feel like you did lose your first opportunity. Like I guess he did re-earn it, but it was just like you did lose already. And so I kind of feel like you're the third man, kind of the odd man out here. But I feel like definitely tensions are boiling over leading up until the pay per view.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of that. There seems to be tension on all sides when it comes to the NXT title. And that's just, and I feel like with this segment, you kind of got to see Braun Breaker, show why he's the champion. You got to see Ilya just sort of, push himself to the forefront as if to say, like, I am not just some easy person that you're just going to run all over to try to retain your title. And then you have JD McDonough, who's a master of mind games as well as a master in the ring. So it was really interesting to see all of those at play. But I really feel like the weakest link in all this was Javier Bernal, because even though he did try his best, I mean, he really just didn't really he there really wasn't a lot to show on his part with this. So Braun winning was the right call. So yeah, it was pretty interesting and it was a solid start. But later on in the night, we did get to see Ilya Dragunov backstage as he was getting ready to leave, but then Grayson Waller popped up wearing these giant granddad glasses is what Ilya called them, which was really funny because those are the kind of glasses that you would see a grandfather wear if he has eye issues. No shade to them. But of course, Grayson Waller got his eyes either taken or attacked some way by Apollo Crews last week. And Grayson, of course, knows how to talk ish regardless of what situation he's going through, because at least he still has his confidence if he doesn't have his eyes. But he basically was getting in his face. But Ilya challenged him to a match, and we will get into that match a little bit later on in the show. So after that, we did have another ladder match qualifier between in the basically the final match in the best of 3 series between Nathan Frazier and Axiom. And whoever won this match would win the series and would qualify for the NXT North American title ladder match at Halloween Havoc. So, of as usual within this series of matches, they gave the best to each other. I feel like I'm almost repeating myself with these two because they really are a match made in heaven. I almost feel like when it comes to like best of three series, it's like, or when it comes to matches where you have opponents that fight each other more than once, we're going to be talking about Nathan Frazier and Axiom the same way we talk about Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, or almost the same way that people talk about Edge or John Cena or Randy Orton or John Cena, in the sense that when you see these two fight, you know you're going to get a good match and you know you're going to get a good showing here. So with this match, they basically went move for move, traded all kinds of super kicks to each other, like knee strikes to the face, high flying moves, basically the best that they had to offer, they basically gave it. And in this picture right here, this is what really impressed me and caught my eye, um was when Nathan Frazier gave Axiom basically a suplex off of the top rope and then flipped over and then gave a Falcon Arrow, which was reminiscent of Seth Rollins, the United States champion. And of course, you know, they did train together at Black and Brave at his school, so it was really cool to see that take place. But Nathan Frazier wound up winning the match as he stacked up Axiom for a surprise pin because they were both trying to flip and reverse on each other's pins. But Nathan Frazier wound up hitting that pin as a surprise, and he wound up winning the match. So now he won the series, and now he's going for to participate in the ladder match for the North American title at Halloween Havoc. And then they both shook each other's hands at the end. They had each other's mutual respect and love, and it was really great and a really nice show of sportsmanship. So, Katrina, how did you feel about this match, and how do you feel about this series? And did you prefer Nathan going towards the ladder match over Axiom?
It was a really good match, actually. It was really entertaining. I thought they were like the last picture. That particular spot was very impressive. Um, I'm okay with the win. I do like Axion though, and so I wouldn't have minded if he made it to the ladder match. But I'm okay with the win because I felt like all three matches they gave it. If it was a situation, it's like I don't know. If they didn't really give their best every match, then I might feel more like one over the other, but I felt like truly they gave, in this series of matches. And so in this situation, it was kind of just a better man won. He just happened to win this matchup and go forward. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that choice. I'm okay with that. I thought it was really entertaining though. And I like that, they did that and it was respect. There was no weird shadiness or like that, you think they're friends and then oops, surprise, they're not friends. You're like, wait a minute, weren't y'all just cool last week? And then and so I was okay with everything, even up until the sign of respect. And I'm actually interested to see what Nathan actually does in this ladder match now because shaping up to be so I'm kind of curious how he's going to hang now in this ladder match, but I think it'll be good.
Yeah, I was actually rooting for Axiom to go for it simply because I knew he was going to deliver when it came to the acrobatics. Like when it comes to him, and then you also have the likes of Wesley, who's also in the match. You got Carmelo Hayes, who isn't afraid of the air either. Like, and then you have Oro Mensa in that category as well, who isn't afraid of the air. It's like you got all these people who utilize jumping off of the ropes and all types of high flying maneuvers in order to win. But then again, so is Nathan Frazier. So I feel like either way, it's a win. Like on TikTok, I say a win is a win. That was definitely it's a win either way for all of us, honestly. So with him moving forward, we also have Von Wagner in the match as well, which seems to be the odd person out in that ladder match. But either way, Nathan has the final spot, and it's going to be an interesting ladder match for Halloween Havoc. And we get to see which one of those men is more hungry for the North American title. Like, I can't wait. Now, I'm pretty sure next week we'll probably get into our predictions for it. But I do know it is shaping up to be a pretty stellar looking match. And this match was really great, and I can't wait to see what's next for Axiom. And also for Nathan Frazier, as he moves forward and as they both move forward in their careers. I'm really looking forward to it. It it was really great. Like, I'm pretty sure we're going to be talking about those series of matches, for years to come, like I said earlier. So moving forward, we had another match in the women's division. Yay! Between Indy Hartwell, the impressive one, and Valentina Feroz. Now, backstage, Valentina and Indy had a little bit of a back and forth between each other, and Valentina was just trying to hype herself up for the match or whatnot, and Songo was back there to give her support like he normally does, with her and her partner Ulisa Leon, who is out injured at this point. So Valentina had to go it alone a little bit. So this match went pretty, it went long, even though a part of me thought it was going to go short, because I thought maybe Valentina would notice something happening with Sangha, because Sangha of course got confronted last week by Veer Mahan, who was on the main roster, but we hadn't really seen much of him on Monday Night Raw, in the past couple of months. So with us not having seen him, we didn't know where he was going to pop up. So he did pop up and confront Songa. And then he confronted Songa this week by coming out, to whisper something in his ear. And then he looked really concerned about it. And so he wound up leaving this match and leaving the side and leaving the corner of Valentina Feroz as this match kept going on. But the match was still, really good regardless. You got to see more of what Valentina has to offer and more of Indy in terms of her power and also her submission and technical work as well. And something that I thought was really funny was that online, a lot of people felt a way with how Indy Hartwell won the match, which was with the superplex from the top rope. And people even, and a lot of wrestlers, even Karen Bam Bam, who was on the panel with us as well, who is also an independent champion in wrestling herself, said that a superplex from the top rope is a really, you know, stellar way to win a match. Like it's a very powerful way to, knock down your opponent. So why are we questioning how Indy was able to win this match with that? So Indy Hartwell wound up winning. So it was a really good match, but I'm wondering what happened with Veer Mahan and Sangha. But either way, Indy Hartwell came out with the win via pinfall. So Katrina, how did you feel about the match? And how did you feel about, that discourse happening on social media about the way Indy won?
I thought it was good. I'm actually glad that we're seeing Indy wrestle more. I'm glad they gave her some more time. I've been saying that for months, that they have my girl on it and it's really quick matches or little segments and not letting her really thrive. And so I like that they gave her some more time. And I was actually okay with that win. I think my reasoning is everything doesn't always need to be overly complicated. I don't think everything needs to be when you're doing like 20 finishers and the person's still trying to kick out, or where it's like all these false finishes. I feel like sometimes if you did enough during the match, something like a superplex should be perfectly fine to lose to. I felt like it was actually very simple technique. And I was okay with it. I maybe if there was more stuff happening, and then like, oh, how was that the thing? It's the equivalent of how I don't particularly like roll ups. And my reasoning is I feel like it's like I get it sometimes, but I really don't like a roll up pin, and I always feel like it's a lazy way to win a match, but I get it sometimes. And so if people can accept roll up pins and everybody's fine with those, when it's literally like, how did a person couldn't magically kick out when you see them struggling against somebody kind of smaller than them, but they lost? If everybody can be fine with that, I felt like taking that from a top rope, like that bump, I know I would probably be laid out for a little bit if I took a move from up there in that manner. I'll probably be like, you know what, you take this pin, it's fine. We don't need to we don't even need to go anymore. I'll probably be like really laid out for a while. And so I thought it was actually a very simple way, but it was done well. I thought it was fine. I had no issue with that being the win. Again, everything doesn't always have to be overly complicated. Everything doesn't need to be over the top every time. Sometimes simple is best. And I think with somebody like Indy who is getting better gradually, that was a good way for her to win the match.
I agree. I feel like whatever way, I feel like as long as it's legal, then it's fine. Like I feel like as long as it's legal and as long as it shows what you can do as an athlete, then it's perfectly fine. Like I didn't find an issue with it myself at all. And I do agree with that. Sometimes, simple, can be best. because it's like a long time ago. Like I know something that a lot of older wrestling fans do mention a lot of is the fact that they feel like sort of like the art of the finishing move is dead. And honestly, I don't feel like the art of it is completely dead, depending on what story you're trying to tell. And honestly, when it comes to Indy Hartwell hitting that superplex on Valentina the way that she did, it's pretty clear that that was what she decided to go with in her arsenal in order to win that match, and it proved to be successful. So if that's her finishing move, then then that is a pretty, you know, im- pretty stellar move for her to use in order to finish it out. But Indy also strikes me as the type of person where she might have more to offer and more to give in terms of a finishing move, like that might not be her only one. So you just never know. But either way, I didn't find any issue with it. But the discourse did happen, so I did want to address that. We
Yeah.
do support. It was an impressive win, like her theme song says, impressive. So it was still cool. Indy Hartwell came out with the win, so that was amazing. What do you think is going on with Songa and Veer Mahan though?
I don't know, but I was like, okay. It was a lot of like stuff happening back there. I'm actually surprised they didn't focus as much as they did back there, because it was like they let us know it was going on, but they also didn't focus on it either. And so I'm curious to see what was really happening. But I guess we'll see. Hopefully next week. Maybe if we're gonna lead something into Halloween Havoc. Who knows?
Maybe so. You just never know. It's really interesting. But moving on with the rest of the show, we had a number one contenders match for the NXT tag team titles because after Indy Hartwell won the match, there was a little bit of an interruption from Pretty Deadly, the NXT tag team champions, who decided to come out and stand on the platform that's like right above the NXT commentary desk, and they weren't just dressed as their regular fabulous selves. One of them had on a hat where you can drink sodas from, like a long time ago, with a straw down here towards the mouth, and then the other one had
A
on
soda
a
hats.
yeah, soda hat. There you go. I'm sorry. My mind is blanking. And then the other one had on a giant, like, styrofoam cowboy hat. And they had Pretty Deadly, like, painted on their chests and back or whatever. And it was really funny looking. And they were basically, saying that nobody, could really qualify, to fight them because they are the best. And they were talking about each team that was wrestling, to be the number one contender. And when they mentioned Brooks and Jensen, they again said Roll Tide, which never stops being old for me as an Alabamian. It was absolutely hilarious. And they were just talking about how Idris, Inofe, and Malik Blade, just don't have enough experience. And they also mentioned how the dyad is just way too creepy. So basically, they just didn't see it for any team. But the match went on either way. And this match was all over the place. Not in a bad way, but in a good way. Because you got to see everyone perform to the highest of their abilities in this tag team match. The tag team division was on a higher level with this match. You have Brooks and Jensen showing all of their powers and all of their kicking and stuff, as you can see in that picture against the Dyad. You had the Dyad, and then you also had Joe Gacy out there trying to cheat for them in the match as well. But Cameron Grimes wasn't having it. He came out there and gave his cave in double stomp to Joe Gacy as a statement. You have Malik Blade and Idris Inofe hitting drop kicks on the other teams as well. Like, this match was just fantastic. You just saw everything everywhere all at once. But in the end, though people were cheating and stuff like that, the dyad wound up, coming up short because as they were distracted with Cameron Grimes hitting Joe Gacy, their leader, Idris and Malik picked up the win with the cover and they won. So now Idris Inofe and Malik Blade are the number one contenders for the tag team titles. And I was so happy about this because they're awesome. And also, they're black men. And it's just really great to see black men in a and a point of prominence because it's Black excellence over here. So it was really cool, and I really enjoyed this match. So, Kat, what did you think about this match?
Yeah, it definitely was a lot going on, but as you said, it wasn't like it wasn't chaotic. Like it was like it was stuff going on, but it didn't seem like it was too messy or that it took too much away from the match, and so that's good. I was happy with the win too. I was like, you know, I do like Pretty Deadly as tag champions. I do think they're very entertaining, but I'm actually very happy with who the number one contenders are. I feel like this is going to be interesting, also because of their style of wrestling. And so I'm happy with it. I'm actually glad it wasn't Dire because they were doing too much for me. And I'm like, y'all don't need to be getting no opportunities like this doing shenanigans. And so
Right.
I was okay with the end. I was okay with the winners, who was the number one contenders. But I thought it was a really like good match. Like I said, it was chaotic, but a good chaotic. Like not like where you're like, oh my god, too much is going on. It was just enough that it made sense for the teams that were involved in all of this. Like it actually worked for what we knew the teams to be, that it was okay with all the nonsense that was going on, and it wasn't like taking away too much from the match. So I thought it was really good, and I'm happy with the team that won.
Yeah, me too. I was really excited for them. And like you said, it wasn't a chaotic, match at all. It was really, it flowed together really well. And I'm really glad that that team won as opposed to like the Dyad winning. Because if they won, using Joe Gacy to try to win, it just would have been like, oh my God, why? And I'm also kind of glad, even though Brooks Jensen and Josh Briggs, did their best in the match, I'm also kind of relieved that they didn't necessarily win either because we've seen them, in the tag title picture so much. And considering they did lose the tag titles and stuff, it's just kind of like, okay, well, it's nice to shake things up and have something new. And when it comes to something new, Idris and Ofe and Malik Blade do offer that. So I am interested to see how they fare against Pretty Deadly. But definitely, I'm pretty sure Pretty Deadly, wants to hold on to those titles for as long as they can. So they can be as silly as they can for as long as they can. So I'm really glad that the number one contenders are Malik and Idris. So it was cool. So in the parking lot, speaking of the dyad, losing, they were upset at Cameron Grimes for, interfering in their cheating business. And they had a statement for Cameron Grimes basically saying that he had made a mistake in interfering in their business, and they challenged him to a 3-on-1 handicap match to pay for his sins. Now, I believe this might be happening Tuesday um or Saturday for Halloween Havoc. Not this Saturday, but next Saturday. I'm not sure, but they're giving off the impression that it may happen Tuesday. But I kind of hate the idea that they challenged him to a 3-on-1 because they just assume he's just going to be alone and he's not going to have anybody to fight on his behalf, and that just bothers me and it makes me sad. But Cameron Grimes has already proven that he ain't scared of nobody, so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And then Cameron Grimes responded to the challenge with McKenzie and said that he would have help from two men outside of NXT. So here again, there's that connection, there's that universe that's happening where NXT is pulling from Raw and SmackDown again. So, and we're going to get more of that in this episode, but I'm really intrigued to see who it could be. Katrina, who do you think Cameron Grimes could get as an ally from outside of the NXT world?
Man, I don't know. I feel like like I don't. I feel like the bloodline is a definite no right now. They got their whole thing. Half the whole storyline with them, I think, removes them. But and then like you got Bobby Lashley, who's I guess supposed to be injured. You remove him from that. I honestly feel like it can be anybody. Maybe Ali. I can kind of see, he was great in NXT. And he also somebody who's like so unappreciated. So like they don't appreciate him the way they need to. I wouldn't mind seeing him pop up on that. Um I really honestly don't know. Like maybe Matt Riddle, if they want to just take a little own down really quick just to kind of help him out a little bit. There's a few. I feel like there's a few, but I'm honestly not sure which way they want to go with this just yet. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell because usually when stuff like that happens, they'll pull somebody from the main roster. It's usually somebody who fits an aesthetic. And I know when Matt Riddle came down to NXT, he was with Wesley and his former partner, and they had that aesthetic going on. And then of course we'll get into another aesthetic that we've got going on a little like in a few minutes with the next match. So I'm wondering who really fits Cameron Grimes' aesthetic from the main roster. It's kind of hard to tell at this point, but I'm sure whoever he does choose, it'll be interesting and cool. But Ali is a good choice because he did have that promo that he released on social media, and he does want more. And he doesn't want people to just kind of, mark him out, in terms of opportunities. So he would stand to go down to NXT. It would, benefit him if that's the case. But we just gotta wait
Yeah.
and see. We just gotta wait and see. But either way, I'm intrigued and I think it's gonna be cool. So moving on, we had another women's match with Alba Fyre versus JC Jane of Toxic Attraction, who came out there with Gigi Dolan, my wife, who was wearing an amazing outfit and had amazing hair going on and everything. So they came out there to fight. But then in one of their promos with Mackenzie, they did mention that they might have a surprise in store for Alba Fyre, but they didn't necessarily say what it was or when it was going to manifest itself. But as the match went on, it was a pretty good match, of course, kind of what you would expect from Alba Fyre and JC Jane. Um, JC, per usual, tried to use underhanded tactics along with Gigi to try to win the match, but she did show a little bit more of her athletic prowess in it. But in the end, Alba Fyre wound up winning the match with the gory bomb, even though she tried to, do it one time, but then JC countered it. But then she did it a second time and it actually went through successfully. And she wound up winning the match with the gory bomb eventually. So as she was out celebrating and they were showing replays of how the gory bomb took place, and as Alba was making her entrance. Yep, she did do a dive onto both of the girls. That was really impressive. As she was celebrating her win and as they were showing the replays, Miss Ma'am got attacked. Alba Fyre got attacked as she was posing by someone who was hooded in all black in the audience. And so people were wondering who was it? People were reacting like, who is this girl? And she revealed herself to be Miss Sonya Deville. And that was the surprise. She popped up in NXT, much to the shock of everyone, and attacked and proceeded to jump on Alba Fyre. And the other two members of Toxic Attraction got to fighting with her, ran her into the barricade and into the steps. Like, it was just terrible. And then they lifted her up outside of the outside of the commentary desk and hit a triple power bomb on her, reminiscent of the Shield, and just slammed her through the commentary desk, and it broke. And they basically stared at their work as if they were very proud of what they had done. And it was just like, wow, it was so unexpected, but yet still a very fierce move from Toxic Attraction in the absence of the NXT Women's Champion Mandy Rose. And after this attack took place, they went backstage and talked about their reasoning behind it. And Sonya said that her and Mandy may have had their differences in the past, alluding to their feud before she had to leave WWE, but then she came back as a official. She said, me and Mandy may have had our differences, but she's still my best friend. And since she's my best friend, her girls are my girls now. So now they are fighting together and they want to break Alba Fyre down to the point to where she doesn't make it to Halloween Havoc to challenge Mandy Rose. So, Katrina, how did you feel about this match? And also, how do you feel about Sonya Deville going back to NXT and joining forces with Toxic?
It was a good match. I did enjoy the match, and I was actually very glad that Alpha got to win. I like her. I like her aesthetic. I like her move set. Uh, and why I was shocked that Sonya appeared, I wasn't surprised that she automatically went because again, we already knew the thing with her and Mandy. Like they were together, before even when they had their that match outside of kayfabe, we knew like they were still cool. They was doing their things together, the donut shop and everything. And so it's not too much of a stretch that when Mandy is gone for why she's gone, she don't just step in real quick and be like, you know what, I got you, friend. I got you. And I feel like that's what that was. I do feel a way that it's like you don't really need to add any more members to Toxic Attraction. And I'm also the impartial of I don't claim everybody's friends, and maybe that's just me. But I might be cordial to people, but I am not gonna say your girls are my girls if I don't really know you yet. I just feel like I'm like, I don't know about all that, Sonya. Like, what if they like shady? We don't know if they not shady or not. Like, you and Mandy did have a problem, and even though she's your best friend, we don't know how these girls are. Considering we were seeing some side eyeing from some of them girls at Mandy a few weeks ago. So we can't say 100% that while you might be stepping in to help them, would they do the same for you? And so we can't. So I did kind of gave her like, we've been around too long for this. Like when she was just like, it's her girls, and I'm like, I don't know. Like I don't know if I'll say all that. I might step in and help my friend, but I ain't gonna be just claiming everybody as friends. So, like I don't do that. So I was a little side eyeing that as like a person, like, women sometimes they always the nicest. But I was not surprised in regards to her coming in and stepping in because they are friends. And so it made sense like, oh, if she can't be here for this week or whenever she's supposed to come back, I guess before the pay-per-view, then have somebody who knows her well step in. And so that part made sense. But I did like that Alba did get the win. It was just unfortunate that she did all that happened to her after her win. Because it's like, I feel like she'll be fine as far as mentally. I still think she won't break that easily. I don't get that vibe that she'll break easily, but it's still unfortunate.
Yeah, it is unfortunate because in the sense of Alba Fyre is like she is used to facing, Mandy, but she has never really faced Sonya before. So she doesn't know exactly how that will work. Now, in terms of Sonya and Toxic, you do have a point there. You can't necessarily go claiming people, just because they're connected, to someone that you love. But at the same time, a lot of people do, start friendships that way. It's like they feel like, oh, well, you're with this person that I've known for so long. So if they trust you and I trust you and everything will be okay. I'm not necessarily saying that's the wrong way to think, but I do understand your sentiment behind it. I completely get it. But at the same time, it is really intriguing. I am glad that Sonya is, finding new life, through this because when it comes to seeing her on SmackDown or Raw, she really wasn't doing that much, since she had gotten fired. And, the last we saw her get beat up by Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's title. We hadn't really seen her do that much. So I'm really glad that, she is back in NXT where she can cause some mayhem down there, even if it is with, her friend's faction. And I hope that she's not, trying to tear it up from within. Um, as Mandy is gone or whatever. So I don't know. I'm still it's interesting, but we're still at a wait and see pattern with that. But Sonya and Alba Fyre will be fighting next week, and I am interested in seeing that match, and interested in seeing whether or not Sonya really is going to break Alba Fyre down to the point to
Yeah.
where Alba won't be able to move forward with the match against Mandy. Like what is it? Like I'm wondering how that's gonna go because sometimes even on the main roster we've seen Sonya in the ring and she hasn't been as dominant in the ring. Like sometimes she'll be on the struggle bus in some of her matches. So I'm wondering against someone like Alba Fyre, who is probably the longest reigning women's champion in the modern era of WWE, how will she step up against, her in that way? So I'm definitely interested in that next week. And her and like I said, Sonya and Toxic is a really cool thing to look at, but I just got to see what's going to happen and what their intentions are with that. So
Yeah.
definitely really really cool stuff, really cool stuff. I love it. So moving on, we have a match between Wesley and Stax, who, of course, is one of the family members of Tony D'Angelo, who is out with injury due to Wesley and Tony's match last week to qualify for the ladder match at Halloween Havoc. Stacks was looking to get revenge on Wesley. So there was a point where Wesley got a little bit injured and tore up somehow, but he was still fighting through the pain, and he wound up beating. Well, there was one point where Stacks actually went for the knee of Wesley. That was what was injured on him. And then but then at a certain point he got tripped up, and then it set him up for a spin out neck breaker for a near fall. Then afterward, well, not really after the match, but basically, during the match you see this high move right here where there was a suplex involved. And then as the match kept going, Wesley beat Stacks with a corkscrew senton for the win. So after that happened, Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes, of course, inserted themselves and proceeded to attack him. Oh, Trick Williams is so attractive. Um he came out there and proceeded to beat up on him because they just love to bully Wesley, and beat up on him some more in order to make a statement, because Carmelo is in the ladder match as well. But then Oro Mensa came out and fought on behalf of Wesley, and basically made the save and helped them run off Carmelo and Trick. So that was really all that happened in that segment. So then later on, involving Stacks got confronted by Tony D'Angelo, who was on a crutch. And Tony told him that because he lost his match, that he would have to fight and prove his loyalty next week against a mystery opponent. Here we are again with the mystery opponents that we don't know if they could be from um Raw or SmackDown or what, but either way, or just from NXT, either way, Stacks is in for a rude awakening, because he kept asking his boss over and over again, just tell me who it is so I can prepare. And Tony was like, nah, you're gonna see it next week. So that's what happened with that. So how did you feel about this match, and how do you feel about Carmelo and Trick continuing to bully Wes Lee leading up to their ladder match? And also with Oro Mensa, defending Wes.
It was a decent match. I wasn't surprised necessarily with the win. I was actually okay with that win, but I was also not surprised with Carmelo. I felt like it was going to be one, and they wound up being both of them. So they both came out there and kind of doing their shenanigans. And I guess again, it's to kind of get into Wes's head before this ladder match. I guess it makes sense. They're doing heel stuff. It made sense. I was a little bit like, why do we have to have like, how are you supposed to be the homie? And it's like, no, you got to do like a mystery opponent. Like, how do we get to this level of friendship that it's like, you know what, you lost. Let's prove yourself. Like, I was like, wait, what? Like, why is that? How is this the friend? Is this the friend card that we have to do now? Like, oh, you didn't do your best today. Let's see if you do more, and let's do extra work and next time. Like, I was literally like, about that. Because I'm like, how is this you guys supporting? Like, how is this supposed to be you supporting the homie in a loss? He did take the L, maybe cheer him up or something. I don't know. There's a lot going on with the squad, but instead it's a mystery opponent. So I was just like, oh, all right, well, if these are the friends you got, would you get like who's worse? If this is your homie, like, you know what, you lost. Like, you lost, instead of kind of being supportive about it. And so I'm curious who the mystery opponent could be, because honestly, it could honestly be anybody. It might be another person from the main roster just pop up. We don't even know, honestly, or somebody that's been gone for a while. I was like, ooh, surprise. We don't know. I feel like they're just kind of surprising us with what they're doing. But I thought it was a good match. I just was like, but why he has have a mystery opponent? Like, the loss was that much? like okay, that seems a lot extra for losing a match. But otherwise, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, but here's the thing though. Tony D'Angelo is more so of Stack's boss as a Don or as a mafia boss than anything else. So I feel like maybe he really does see Stacks as his subordinate as opposed to seeing him as an equal. Because you saw what happened the last time, one of his family members tried to step to him, he had to feed him to the fishes, because that was just how the business works. So with him, doing that, to Stacks, it's like he doesn't really see Stacks as, you know, his friend or like his equal. He sees him as a subordinate that, and he has to teach him a lesson. And, you know, sometimes in life you have to learn those lessons in order to realize, you know, how much, you know, more you have to offer. So I guess that's what that's going to be. It may seem harsh in the moment, but you know, that's just, I guess that's just how the gangster life is.
I don't know. I feel like would this cause more issues, you know, like later on with a situation where it's like he's being too was I don't want to say standoffish, that's not the right word, but like where he's like, I'm just the boss and you do what I need you to do. Like, you know, that happens at the time. We've seen enough in the movies where the friend might feel a way about that. It might be an issue later on. This might come back to bite Tony in the behind later on. And so
It
we'll
might.
see.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. It's just pretty funny how that happens. But then we also, after that, we also had another segment involving Nikita Lyons and Zoe Stark. And we got to see a clip of Nikita talking to Triple H, running, I guess you could say, like a school or a class of sorts. And she was talking about how much she actually learned from Zoe Stark and how, you know, she appreciated learning from someone like Zoe who has so much, you know, knowledge of the business and in-ring acumen and stuff. And they talked about how much they appreciate each other's differences and how those differences are going to take them to winning the women's tag titles from Team Casey Squared. That segment was pretty cool, you know, for the most part. And they were talking about, you know, how much they know that Team Casey Square may be best friends and stuff like that, but they're going to utilize all of their differences in order to win. And that was a pretty cool segment in and of itself. So, yeah, that was interesting. So, moving forward, we had another women's match because, you know, NXT loves its women. So we had another women's match between Kiana James, who was, you know, building on the blueprints for Chase University when we first saw her backstage, versus Thea Hail, who is still relatively new to in-ring action. Not new, but still new nonetheless as a youngling. Um, she came out there with her Chase U people, and as she got ready to face Kiana, the match wound up interrupted by Robert Stone, and he came out there to get in her face about embarrassing him last week because she did lift him up and slam him on the floor away from, like, in front of the commentary desk as Carmelo Hayes was watching. And it's so funny if you go back and look at the picture and how, and when you zoom in on Carmelo's face and see how shocked he looked at the idea that Thea Hill lifted this whole man and just slammed him down. It was really funny and really cool because I just love it when women get to show off their strength like that, you know, and lift men. Because, I mean, duh, because we can lift whatever we want. And Thea is strong, and I love that. So, Robert Stone didn't appreciate that. So he said, so now, since you've embarrassed me, I got to make you pay. And so he was about to run the ropes and do something to her, but Thea basically press slammed him again and embarrassed him one more time. And that was just really funny to see. But that wound up costing her because she wound up distracted as she was talking trash to him to try to embarrass, you know, as he was trying to embarrass her. And Kiana James put her away with her finishing move called the 401k. And she wound up winning the match. So, yeah, that bummed me out because I love me some Thea Hill. She's so sweet. And then you have Kiana with all of her PhDs and, you know, other degrees and certifications and stuff. You know,
Yeah.
she's a brilliant, smart girl or whatever. And she was talking about how she utilized that strategy in order to win, you know, that match. But, you know, she just hit her 401k for the win, and it made me feel sad for Thea. But either way, that's what happened. So yeah. How did you feel about this short little segment involving the two girls and Robert Stone?
Thea picking, I thought that was great. I think back to like Bianca, she picked up Buddhist, and
Oh
while that
yeah.
was even more that was a big feat. It's always nice to kind of see like them allowing them to kind of showcase the things people don't expect for somebody, especially because she's not like a big woman, you know, she's actually kind of tiny, and so it's like, okay, sis, I see you. Not me, but I see you doing that. I think it's cool that they allowed that. I love that Kiana finishing it with the 401k. I think it's so like extra for no reason, but I like that it's like literally like I'm like super professional. Let me like the thing they tell you to have as an adult when you're working hard to make sure you got your 401k and have that all planned for retirement. So I love that that's her. I love that that's the finisher name. I think that's actually really clever. But I definitely felt a little bit sad about it. I guess it's nice for Kiana to kind of get some wins because we haven't really seen that much from her. Where she's really winning like that. But I understand feeling like she had that really awesome moment and then she lost. And so I was like, oh, all right. Like y'all didn't okay, we got a little bit, and then y'all was like, no, she's not gonna get the win. She's gonna have to take the loss. But I thought for what it was nice. I did like to see Thea in that moment. And it's sad that she didn't win, but again, I kind of like that maybe this would be more for Kiana as well. We'll see if that means they'll give her more push and like showing off her character a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe they will. I am interested to see more of what Kiana James could be because I feel a little bit lost as to what she could be, even though it's like she's buying properties, she's working with blueprints, it's like she has all these certifications and stuff. And then it's like with her theme song, it's like it sounds kind of like something like out of PBS where they had like a science show, like Bill Nye the Science Guy. But it's weird. So it's just kind of like it's like a blinded me with science type of deal. So are you a teacher? Like what are you? But either way, I feel interested in seeing, where her character could go. And when it comes to Thea, I mean, there's still so much she could do because she's still so very young. Like she just graduated from high school this year. So even though, she did lose this match, there's still so much more for her to do and so much more growing for her to do. So I'm really interested in seeing that. But I do love it's just so impressive to see women do feats of strength like that. Like I love it. Like
Yeah.
lift these people, let them know, okay? So that was cool. So after the match, Von Wagner questioned Robert Stone backstage and told him to focus on the lighter match, and that was really short and sweet. So that happened. But then Mackenzie Mitchell was backstage with Miss Cora Jade, the constant hater, who just loves to just, you know, poop on Roxanne Perez and the entire women's division. And she basically said that she made a lie and said that Cora Jade, and not Cora Jade, but said that Roxanne was having trouble finding a person to face her, you know, in that match or whatever, and said that nobody on SmackDown or Raw wants to talk to her or whatever. But Mackenzie actually had on good authority that everybody was calling Roxanne and everybody wanted, to stand in line to be that person to face, Cora Jade or something like that. And this irritated Cora. Cora was like, oh my God, that's not true. I can't even get a call back or all this other stuff. So, and then she asked her if she asked Mackenzie if she had another superstar's number. And then Mackenzie lied and said no. And then this irritated Cora, so she stormed off. And in a very beautiful moment, Mackenzie looked into the camera and said, I actually do have the number, but I'm not going to give it to her. Vic and Booker, back to you. And I thought this was so funny because we're seeing more of Mackenzie's personality, and Um, I love that so much. And the fact that she literally looked dead at the camera and said, look, I'm not going to help you. Like, and said it to us. It was just really cute. I was like, you know what, Mackenzie, I already loved you, but now I love you even more. So, how did you feel about that in terms of Cora and Roxanne's open challenge thing that's going to start by taking place this Friday on SmackDown?
I like that they're trying to incorporate the brands. I feel like they're doing that more. And maybe this is also to build up Survivor Series. Who knows? Because usually it's the three brands. But um, I like that while Cora was trying to be petty, it was like, no, people definitely was looking for a rock. Like they wanted, and I like that. But say that Roxanne's not really alone after all, that she does have people that might have her back. And so I guess we'll see who that will be. But I kind of like that, like the aspect when she was just like, well people actually was. That she tried to make her, I guess, feel like alone. I felt like that's what she was trying to do in in that situation, like make her feel like she had nobody to help her. She was all alone and she had all the cards. And clearly Cora was, wrong in that regard. So I thought that was pretty like, I'm like, are we finally really gonna see the tide turning for Roxanne? Because I like, they have little moments, but I'm like, I really need them to really get this like ended, so Cora can go back to somewhere else with her shenanigans. I feel like we've getting little pieces of like some kind of, payback, but not enough for me at least. Uh for me as a fan, not enough payback for Roxanne. So I'm hoping that with this now, in fact people do want to help, that maybe this would be more in line to kind of have that payback happening, and Roxanne can move on away from Cora Jade.
Yeah, I'm ready for that too because in the case of this rivalry, it's like I feel like it is good that they're stretching it out. Um because of course it's building up the anticipation for us, not being able to wait until, whenever they're going to fight each other. Well, no, at Halloween Havoc when they do fight each other. And it's just this is just another way of building that anticipation. Like I really cannot wait to see these two fight. And then on the one hand, you're right. It's like Cora Jade, she's so jealous hearted of Roxanne and her, potential as a star, as a young star, that she is willing to, spin any type of web of lies in order to try to, drag Roxanne's name through the mud. And she's not realizing that it's only making herself look bad and it's only making herself look mediocre because lowball if you have to lowball like that in order to make yourself look good, then that only makes you look even more, trash. Not only in the ring, but also outside of the ring as well. So, I mean, girl, it's not making you look any better. Like, what did that do for you? What did that do for your career?
Yeah.
Not a thing.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make you look any better. Like, it's just terrible. So Cora is just a really jealous hearted person. And I cannot wait to see, Roxanne give her what's coming to her. I can't wait to see what opponent Roxanne has chosen for Cora Jade. And I guess in a sense, I can't wait to see, what opponent Cora has chosen for Roxanne. Like, since they hate each other so much, I'm pretty sure they're going to choose whoever is going to give them the hardest time. So either way, it's going to be interesting and I can't wait. And I just need more of Mackenzie Mitchell's personality. Just more. Just give me more. Give
Yeah,
me
I
more
like what I see so
Mackenzie.
far too as well.
Yes, give me more Mackenzie. She is my girl. I love her. I love her. So, in the main event, we had Ilya Dragunov versus Grayson Waller. Of course, this is from their encounter backstage in the parking lot where they challenged each other. So this was interesting. Not only just in ring, but also in terms of like shenanigans outside of the ring as well. Um, but then also you had a pre-taped segment involving Apollo Crews trying to, warn Grayson Waller of their upcoming match with him writing in journals and having his vision corrected and everything. His eyes are no longer bleeding, thank God. Um because that just grosses me out. But either way, Apollo is healed and he's ready to fight Grayson Waller. So we got that under control. We got that under control. And Grayson has his eyes under control, so there wasn't no drama. Okay. Yeah, all the scary stuff is gone for now. Either way, this match happened. Grayson Waller even tried to strike Ilya Dragunov's eye at one point, but Ilya wasn't having it. Ilya gave him the best of his strong style. Grayson was giving him the best of what he had because he just loves to be all flashy. As you can see in this picture, he tried to hit an elbow on Ilya Dragunov in his chest. Like there was just a lot of, action-packed stuff going on in this match. It was really good in terms of a main event. It gives a lot of what you would ask for. But then there was a point where Grayson Waller got distracted at a certain point as the Halloween Havoc wheel started to spin by itself. And that really creeped him out as he was standing outside of the ring. But this allowed Ilya Dragunov to take over and win with a running back uppercut. So Ilya wound up winning the match, which made him, of course, look stronger heading into Halloween Havoc, challenging for the NXT title. And it was almost a bookend, talking further about what happened after this match. Braun Breaker speared Ilya Dragunov into heck, literally speared him into heck, in probably one of the best spears I have ever seen, in my wrestling fandom life. And basically flexed and basically said, Ilya, I'm here and you are not about to take this title from me. I am that guy. And as he was posing, and feeling triumphant from the spear he gave him, guess who was in the back watching in the cut? JD McDonough was watching and clapping slowly in a very creepy manner as the night closed. So it began, NXT began with Braun and Ilya and JD, and it ended with those three. It was a bookend episode. So, Katrina, how did you feel about this match in terms of Grayson stepping up against someone like Ilya? And how did you feel about Braun Breaker, asserting himself, to say, this is my title and you ain't finna take it?
I liked the match. I thought it was a good match. I again, two very different styles. Um, but I wasn't surprised again with the win. I felt like you can't have this guy going into a triple threat match losing. Like you have to. I feel like they're trying to make like every opponent are dangerous enough that the match could go anyway. And even if we all believe Braun is keeping the title, make it look at least like okay, this might be an issue with a guy who was amazing and never lost the belt, and then a guy who's a little bit crazy and odd, and so I felt like it was the right thing. I'm assuming maybe G had something to do with the wheel spinning, because I was like I was like, wait, what is this? Like this man random. So I don't know if he has something to do with it, which will explain why he was there like clapping. But I felt like being that Argonov came on at the beginning, kind of messing with Braun during that situation. I felt like this was more like a payback. Like you kind of messed with his match during his match and his time, and so you won your match. But I guess you kind of need to know, like, don't be like this is my, not to use Roman's yard line, but like, this is my house. This is my yard, and here you come like messing in the beginning. So now I gotta let you know who it is. And so I felt like that's what he was doing with that spare. Like you could have won the match, but I still got the titles. I felt like that was the vibe I got, that like he was kind of like flaunting a bit, like you can do whatever, but it's still like this is my NXT, and so that's why I got from that. And I like Egno, I really do, but it was a situation like, bro, you did come out in the beginning, you kind of could have left it alone, and you kind of interjected yourself, and so I felt like an eye for an eye. I felt like that's what this was, like a little bit of payback for what he did earlier, but. I actually got really excited for this matchup. I feel like it's going to be really good.
Yeah, it really is. I'm really excited for this match. I'm pumped for it. I'm really pumped for Halloween Havoc as a whole. It's just lots of solid action all around. I just can't wait. And I also just here again love, love, love how NXT is being included to play along with the other two brands. And it's taking its place as the third brand, even though it always was the third brand amongst all of us fans. It's actually, for once and for all being treated as such. And I'm really glad about it. So there's just so much to look forward to, and I'm really excited about it. This is a pretty solid episode. And of course, next week, it's going to come on USA, and it's the go home NXT before Halloween Havoc, and it's just going to be really interesting stuff. Well, Katrina, thank you for joining me per usual on the NXT Aftershow. Let everybody know where they can find and follow you and what you've got going on.
I'm on most social media and Cat We Trust, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. E is a three. I'm pretty much just I'm still reeling in New York Comic Con, honestly. I'm gonna be honest. I like it's been a week, or gonna be a week tomorrow, and it still feels like that happened. And like the week has went by, I'm back in mom mode and still doing my regular stuff, and still it's like, oh my god, that happened. And so I'm kind of still reeling in that. So if you haven't watched the panel, definitely go check it out. It is the full panel is there on the channel, as well as the social media accounts and links for everybody that was on the panel, so you can definitely give them a follow and support as well. I do have a show in November in the Bronx doing my backstage duties. I'm hyped for the New Japan show in October. Super hyped about that. Because the last time I saw New Japan was in 2019. so so I'm like super hyped that my guy Okada will be back. So I'm prepping for that, and Halloween, of course, because Halloween's one of my favorite seasons. But yeah, that's pretty much what's going on. It's just like kind of like, oh man, New York Comic Con did happen. It's getting back to normal, but like, oh, that happened. I'm still trying to like, I guess, get back to normal. I feel like it's like I am normal, you know what I mean? I feel like it's just the excitement was so much, and the weekend was so much that I like finally kind of letting it settle. I feel like that's the right word. But otherwise, yeah, that's what's going on my end.
Yeah, there it is. I'm really glad that you're still living in the afterglow of that, because I technically am still too. Because like it's weird for me because of course, you live in New York and you're used to all of the things. I've been in New York 3 times, so I'm only just getting used to it. But at the same time, I have to come back home and live my regular life. And I just have to be like, well, I have to live my regular life and I have to pretend like none of this happened. But then again, you can't because it still happened and it's still wonderful that it did happen. And that I did get to, of course, spend time with you um in and outside of Comic Con and spend time with all the other women, Karen Bam Bam, Shay Sawyer, Hearts, Shantice from Talk of Champions, and Low from Wrestling Wind Down. Just it was just a beautiful time. We had an amazing turnout, and it was just a great time to be had in New York. So I'm still living the afterglow of it too, while also still trying to get rest from running this week and still working and stuff. So I totally get it. But it's a little bit different, but I still get it. I miss y'all. Um, but either way, to get
Miss
back to
you too.
business. Yeah, to get back to business, you can follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and Twitter at Queen Steph Hardy, like it says at the bottom of the screen. I will be releasing a new episode of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast this weekend because I thought I was going to take a break, but I still have stuff to talk about with the return of Bray Wyatt and everything that happened this week, including Raw that was in Brooklyn that I couldn't see because I came back home and I was sad about it, but either way, it's whatever. Um, and just so many other things in wrestling to address too in the news and all of the above. So please be on the lookout for that. And also just continue to support Women's Wrestling Talk. Follow us at WW Talk Pod on Instagram and Twitter. Check out our website, www.talkpod.com. Subscribe to us on Twitch, on YouTube, and on Facebook. Like our Facebook page so you can see every live video and live show that we do every day. Check out on our website. Please check out all of our articles written by our amazing writing team because we are winding down Hispanic Heritage Month. We're headed towards the 15th. So please check out our last bit of content that we have geared towards Hispanic Heritage Month and celebrating Hispanic women who have made history in wrestling in the past and present and its future. And just continue to just support the brand because we are out here doing amazing things, whether it be with us in our own brands or just with Women's Wrestling Talk. We're out here doing great stuff. So please be on the lookout for that. Support us, watch all of our shows, just get it cracking and continue to support women's wrestling as a whole. So with that in mind, thank you guys for joining us for the NXT After Show on Women's Wrestling Talk, the number one women's wrestling show on the planet. And until next time, bye y'all.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the number one women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the number one women's wrestling show on the planet.